day, welcome back to yet another show of Property Talk with myself and Joe from Red Door. Today our special guest is Trevor Gaw.
Yes, Trevor Gaw has been working with Red Door Properties for the last 4 years. We've already booked our dates for 2025 as well with Trevor. He's been our trainer, our mentor, our friend. So it's always nice if Trevor is here with us.
Fantastic. Trevor, welcome. Nice having you. I've been following your career a bit and admire what you're doing. But I would like you to just quickly run through where did it all start kind of thing. I know you were a property practitioner and then you moved on and now you're a facilitator teaching people, like you said, how to work. Run through that a bit, please.
You know, it was something severe happened in our lives in South Africa in the early 80s, and we moved to Portugal, to the Algarve. And those days, you couldn't take any money out of the country. And I managed to get my hands on a candy floss machine, and I became the world's greatest candy floss salesman.
Serious?
Because that was the only way I could make some money in the Algarve in Portugal. And then a gentleman approached me one day and he said to me, you know, why are you selling candy floss? Why don't you come and sell timeshare? And I said, timeshare? You know, those days it was all timeshare shops. And then he said to me, no, we're in a lovely, unique area called Quinta do Lago. And our owners of this development are Michael Caine, Sean Connery, and a couple of movie stars. And I said, well, my name's Sylvester Stallone. And he said, no, they only have 10 agents and there's a gap open. And I told Chris Crisell, our manager, I've got a guy, I've got to go and find him. So come along. And that's how I got into real estate.
Okay.
And I did exceptionally well. And then I was headhunted by a German company called Euroaktivität. They were based in Liechtenstein, but they were big developers further down the coast. I moved to a little town called Cabueiro, and eventually I became the project director of 9 resorts. Had 150 agents from 15 different nationalities. And when companies were going bankrupt, we were outselling them because there's always a system to succeed.
Yeah.
And those days, there weren't any training manuals, there was nothing. And so my boss bought as many books as he could, and I read them, and I started developing and designing real estate sales manuals or sales manuals. And then in 1990, I returned to South Africa. Interest rates were 25%.
Yeah.
And you know, people today think interest rates are high.
No, they're not.
They're still under our average if you take from 1948 when interest rates started. And I got back into real estate, did exceptionally well. And then late in life, you know, you move from success to significance. One day my son just said to me, Dad, what are you doing with all your knowledge? And it was like a dawning. And I'm a man of faith. I believe the Holy Spirit just said, it's time that you share your knowledge. And there was a big bond originating company that approached me. And we started going around the country doing training sessions. And in a matter of days, my diary was full. And so my calling is to empower people in sales, especially real estate. And that's why I believe that real estate is a personal wealth creation program. And the moment you make the decision to get into real estate, there are major issues that have to be handled. You know, firstly, there's a major decision made that it's not a job, it's a career.
That's right.
And that's the biggest problem we have in South Africa, is that the masses in real estate still look upon it as a job. And that's why they're not successful, you see. And then, of course, empowerment training. A minute percentage of companies have an ongoing lifelong training program. Now, our biggest problem in our industry is you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know that, you're not going to grow. You see, and if you're not growing, then everything goes wrong. Now, if we look at our stats, the statistics show that roughly 50% of people who come into real estate will fall off the wagon in the first year. And that's purely because there's no guidance, there's no support, there's no training. It's, you know, you jump in the deep end, you sink or you swim. You know?
But we had the discussion where we said people think you can do property part-time.
Absolutely not.
It's like you've got a career and then you do property on the sideline, and that cannot happen.
And the company's promoting that.
Yeah.
You know, which to me is a disaster, because part-time real estate doesn't get part-time results. It gets no results. And that's devastational, because at a later stage, that person had the potential, had the talent, had everything in place to become very successful, but they got burnt in the beginning.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get burnt because we don't have a training program. You know, our success, yeah, we have a meeting once a month. We start at 6 in the morning. We have our meeting till 8 o'clock. Then we get to the office and then we do training for the day. And we discuss this all the time. And that's what I love about Red Door Properties. You know, there's a total commitment right from the top. And I believe a fish rots from the head down. Okay, but success comes from the head down too.
Yeah.
Now, one of our downfalls in our industry is that 50% fall off in the first year, 80% fall off in the next 3 years. So there's a small group of people that are left over. But if you look from a company point of view, you look at the large volume in costs occurred in those 3 years. Loss in sales, okay, burning the territory because, you know, the moment there's rejection, the moment I don't agree with somebody, there's rejection. When there's rejection, people burn the company. Now, if you have a look in South Africa, what's the perception of the public about a real estate agent?
The interesting part, and we discussed that in our first program, was that people tend to, I don't want to sell my property through an agent.
Correct.
Because of the commission that gets paid, people perceive it as, geez, people earn a lot of money for little work. And that's also not true.
Absolutely, and you see your problem here is due to a lack of training. Agents don't even know how to handle it.
Yeah.
Now, for example, I was with somebody the other evening, and he said he's just put his house on the market. And I said, may I ask, what budget have you allocated for the marketing, advertising, and promotion of your property? And he looked at me and he said, what do you mean? I said, well, if you sell a second-hand car, or if you sell a piece of furniture, you put it in the local paper, who pays for the advertising? You do.
Yeah.
I said, so you're selling a house. How much have you budgeted for the advertising and marketing of your own? And he said, I haven't budgeted anything. I said, why not? He said, well, the buyer's going to be paying that. I said, okay. Now let's understand. The buyer is contributing to the advertising, marketing, and promotion expenses of selling your home. So this is not a commission. This is a marketing fund. It's an advertising fund.
Yeah.
Its money is needed to do the promotion. Now, if you don't have the training, how do I, and I use the term re-educate the property owner. South Africans don't even know what's needed to sell a house.
100%.
Now, we coach a presentation, and the reason why it's a laminated presentation is because if I asked you, got a fridge at home, you're going to say yes. I say, what's the colour? It's grey. Is it 2-door, 4-door? When I asked you, you didn't see the word F-R-I-D-G-E. You saw a picture of the fridge.
That's right.
So the human being's visual. And that's why you need a visual presentation.
Right.
And so what happens, that presentation builds value. Now suddenly people go, wow, I wasn't aware of what's needed to be able to get a property sold today. Now in the property business, there's a fee of 7.5%. Okay? Now the business is designed to succeed on that. And 80%, the majority of that money, goes to advertising, marketing, and all the expenses needed to get your house sold.
Yeah.
So now the moment people cut commission, let's call it commission because that's what the public see it, they think they're going to put more money in their pocket. But there's nothing further from the truth. Net value remains net value, whether it's a 1%, 5%, 10%, or 20% commission. That's why auctioneers are taking 12, 14, 16%. But nobody's quibbling about that.
No, yeah.
You see, so only when people understand. Now, if you go further, since COVID, marketing costs have gone up 300%, 400%, 500%. The fee stays the same. Now, because of the lack of empowerment, agents think if I'm doing it at 3%, I'll make more sales. There's nothing further from the truth.
Yeah.
Now, if you take, I have people doing a deal on 30,000 rand fixed fee. Now take that off that, split it in two, take 40% tax off that. Then suddenly the agent is left with 6,000 rand, but he's going to use 2 tanks or 3 tanks of fuel to sell the house.
Yeah.
So there's no money left to do the advertising, marketing, and the budget. and then the houses don't sell, then the agent gets blamed.
Correct.
But yes, we are to blame because there's an absolute lack of empowering the people. In the past, what happened, if lawyers weren't sponsoring or bond originators or banks, no training was given. So today we have a culture in real estate that who's going to pay for the training? You know, but there is no money if you're doing business at 3, 4, 5, and 6%. And all of that's built into a very professional strategy. And so in our industry as well, we've now said, how do we survive? We start paying agents more commission. Now they all thought that if you pay them more, you're going to get more sales. That's even further from the truth. You know that last year in South Africa, the average agent did 0.8 of a sale in a month. It's ridiculous. It's disastrous. And this is what people don't understand. Now because of that, now the unethical behavior comes out. Now the desperation comes out.
I would also like to touch on, there's a saying in property, location, location, location. Isn't that? And the theory is you buy the dog in the street in a good area and then you'll make money from the property. But also, there's no better investment than property.
Look, let's have a look first at your original. Originally we said location, location, location. Okay, we looked at the quality of the property, all right, and a number of things. But here's what I want to share with you. Today, sellers say, what's the price of my home? Your home doesn't have a price tag anymore. Now that might shock a lot of people because it's no longer price. It's all about value. You see, quickly jumping back, prior to 2008, people bought property in South Africa on affordability, like we buy a motor car. There was no formula to determine value.
Yeah.
Now, because there was no formula to determine value, when an agent got to a client's home, he said, how much you want for your house? And he said, I want so much. He said, good, let's try. And then what did the seller say? Don't worry about the price, just bring me an offer. So when the agent brought a potential buyer who now has the affordability, what did he say? Gooi offer. Put in an offer, go as low as you can. So the culture in real estate was born. Agents don't know what they're doing. They've got to ask me how much I want for my house. And then they're going to get a seller just to make an offer. But in 2008, after the financial crisis, the National Credit Act came in. That changed everything in real estate. Because now there was a formula given to determine market value. So your house doesn't have a price tag. It has a market value tag. The banks finance market value. The pre-approved, pre-qualified buyer, and that's where everything's changed. Our buyers today are more knowledgeable than the majority of agents. I can show you that a buyer's got 20 tools he uses to determine today's market value on your home if he wants to buy it, with agents only using one. And they haven't even been trained correctly on that one. So now, you understand where a lot of people say, it's such a lovely buyer, they vanish. They're going to ask you one or two questions, and if you can't answer it, they move on. Also in the past, you had people who had their houses on the market on an open listing. We have 10 different prices on a property. Today's buyer is so highly knowledgeable when they use, I say they're internet gurus, they're online whiskies, they're research fanatics. When they use those tools, they go, how can someone take the single biggest financial asset they have in their lives, their family's financial well-being, and then have 10 prices on it? So the buyer goes, something's wrong with this house. They don't even call on it. Now the agents selling the house don't know, because they don't know what they don't know. And that's why our industry is in a very, very tight spot. That's why I love coming to Red Door Properties. Because we're open-minded, means there's no right or wrong way, there's an understanding. The consultants here are not agents, they're international property consultants. And we teach them this. When he arrived, I've got 8 new people selling right here, and I love that because they're hungry to grow, and we teach people how to create their own personal wealth. And you know, in any leadership role, it's not what you say, it's what you do.
100%.
And that's what I love about Gwen and Joe. They don't say, you must do this. You know, people don't do what you tell them to do. They do what you do. That's what's so beautiful about coming to Red Door Properties. And everybody's on board, you know. And so getting back to that, yes, location will always play a role. You know, the quality of the home, because we do know that a buyer will compare your home with 11 others. We call that the comparison dozen. So you've got to know what's going on in the designated farming area. But the real tool that sells a home is today's market value. And you see, you don't determine that value, nor do I. It's the market that determines it, and there's a formula to work that out. So when a seller says, I want, sorry sir, it's not what you paid, it's not what you owe, it's not what you need, it's not what you want. I didn't say it's not what some unethical agent told you you're going to get, it's what the market determines the value to be today. And there's the downfall, that 90% of the properties on the market are so overvalued that there's no response. Nothing's happening.
I must say, Marius, it's actually what Trevor is saying. You know, I've been to property over 24 years. I've been working with 4 years with Trevor. You know, he totally taught us and learned us the skills how to differentiate between value and price, you know, and how to convey that over to your purchaser and the seller. Because at the end of the day, we put ourselves in our seller's shoes, you know, so we need to educate them. You know, and the same with the purchasers, you know, because it's also a big decision they're making. And just let them understand it's not about the price, but it's about the value. And as soon as the clients also understand where you are coming from, like we teach during our training, you know, and it's immediately a different attitude you get from your clients.
Absolutely.
Joe, can we ask? It's very difficult for a seller to imagine what the property expert's going through when he goes into your home to sell it. They think he just goes in there, take a couple of pictures and off he goes. But you've experienced it, Gwen. You get there, there's still clothing lying around, the bed's not made, there's people running about, kids, dogs, the whole story. Actually, that house should be show ready.
Absolutely.
At the time of the listing. Am I right in saying that?
Absolutely. And we prepare our sellers as well. You know, sometimes we read diplomatically, but we do educate our sellers to say, listen, imagine you walking into a property. You know, you want to see how the space will work for you. You know, you don't want to be somebody else's taste and preferences be forced upon you. So we definitely, that's part of the process. We work with our sellers because we put ourselves, like I said previously, in their shoes. You know, so from making an appointment of going to see the seller, you know, all the homework and all the research we do, you know, so by the time we walk into that seller's property, you know, we know exactly the square meterage of the house, you know, what is the average of the surrounding properties going for per square meter, you know, it's, so we definitely put ourselves in their shoes, and we do address, you know, we're not going to lie to a seller and say, listen, everything is fine as it is. Because at the end of the day, they also want to sell the property, you know. So by lying to them is shooting yourself in the foot.
And I think one of the biggest problems in South Africa is the moment a seller wants to sell, he compares his home with all the properties that are for sale. Right? So when you look at all the properties for sale, that's where he's determining how much he wants for his home. When the buyer comes along, which today is a highly knowledgeable buyer, he compares the home on the sold properties. Now, if you look in South Africa, between for sale and sold can vary anywhere between 10 and 25%. Now, the moment it's above 5% above market value, the pre-approved, pre-qualified buyer who must buy today in your area, he doesn't call on your property. That's why people have their houses on the market. The other day, my son was in a property and the gentleman said, he said, how many people have you had through your home in the last year? 2. 11 agencies have got the property on the market, but only 2 people came through. But there's no feedback, there's no communication, there's no price counselling, there's no explanation. Why? Because the masses in our industry don't know. And in the past it worked. How much you want for your house? Put on the paper, put in the ad. The calls will come, we'll get an offer, we'll negotiate. I said to somebody the other day, I said, you're asking an agent to bring you an offer. Have a look at this. The buyer of today, being an internet guru, do people make offers on the internet? No. Do they negotiate on the internet? No. Offers and negotiation is dead. It no longer exists in real estate. So understand what exists. The price you see, which is the value today, is the price you pay. So there's a major change that's needed. The re-education of the seller comes only if we re-educate the people involved in real estate. And the big difference there is you've got to make the decision. This is no longer a job, it's a career.
It's a career.
And it all starts with training. You know,
Yeah.
That's why with Trevor, you know, right in the beginning 4 years ago, you know, we put a priority list, you know, and training is right on top of that priority
list.
The better you train, the more knowledge you've got, the better you can help your clients.
What Joe's talking about, we have a 16 priority list program. It starts with training. The second thing on the list is lead generation, which we call prospecting. Now, most times I don't like using the word prospecting because when I use the word prospecting, everybody says door knocking. But door knocking is one of 400 different methods you can use.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's our problem. If you don't train your agents, then they don't prospect. Why? Because they're too scared. If I called you, I'm scared you say, come and see me. Because if you say, come and see me, what am I going to do when I arrive there?
Yeah.
What am I going to do when I walk in the house?
Yeah.
Because our culture is always be, how much you want for your house?
So not chasing the call.
You see, now that's a massive problem. So the oxygen of our business is lead generation, but it's not being done. Because firstly, we don't know what to say and when to say and how to say it, so we're not saying it. We don't know what to do, when to do, and how to do it, so we're not doing it. And now we just carrying on, but we are too scared to make the call because I'm too scared. What am I going to do when I walk in the house? Now here at Red Door, we are hungry to get inside the home because when we walk in, we have a laid out strategy and structure on a system that works. And then the tough thing is, if you must sell your property, you're going to have a property paying in place, and we know there are 27 of them. But if it's not there, you're going to have the ability to get up and walk away. And that's the tough thing. Now, why do I say the ability to walk away? Because here's the key. I work on a contingency fee basis, meaning I need to select my clients very, very carefully. Why? I only get paid when I'm successful.
True.
On top of it, we have to pay all the expenses in advance, hoping that we're going to get it back. So if I choose the wrong client, my business is heading for bankruptcy.
True.
So I turn around to the seller and I'd say to you, may I ask, would you invest money knowing you can't get it back?
Yeah.
You wouldn't. How can I expect my bosses to do the same with me? So therefore, if we're not positioning the property in the market at today's market value, it will not sell. Now you go back to our code of conduct, the PPRA, have a code of conduct, and what does it say? I have to look after the interests of the seller, and I have to look after the interests of the buyer, and I've got to look after the interests of the company. Now, how do I do? How do I get a triple win scenario if I've an overpriced property? So the new way now, buyers know there are no more bargains in real estate. There are no more bargains. It's market value. You're not going to get a penny more than what the market determines your house to be.
True.
So if you need to sell and you position it in the market at market value, we've sold properties in 20 minutes. Because the educated buyer flags an area at market value. The moment the property hits the market at market value, the flag pops up, he picks up the phone and he'll call. He'll even buy it unseen.
Yeah.
Because the 4 acts are there to protect the buyer. You see, and with those in place, then we understand where our industry should be heading. And there's a small group doing that. We don't have any support out there. We have an association we've got to be affiliated to that doesn't look after our interests, we know that. The only interest we have is what's happening within the office. And if there's no highly knowledgeable, educated empowerment program, the office is in trouble.
True.
And that I can tell you, there are more offices in trouble right now in real estate than there are that are creating wealth.
Trevor, we can chat for days and days on end, it feels like that, and there's so many things I would still like to ask you, so maybe we should schedule another
We can do that.
program and have some fun with you. Thank you so much for taking time to join us.
Thank you for having us on the program. Much appreciated.
And thanks for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again.